It's May the 28th, 2014. We are streaming live on YouTube at BeautifulGirlByDana. My name is Dana Durnford. And Fukushima is in a lot of trouble, a whole lot of trouble since we had this accident. Certainly before that accident, they had a lot of serious issues at Fukushima. But it's definitely all going down the sad facts. The deterioration because of radiation is a whole different ball game. You heard of rust. Oh, I forgot. And we are. There we go. I'm just double checking. And we say goodnight and hello to everybody. It is nighttime here in British Columbia, Canada. And we had starfish melting on the coastline here yesterday. And a couple of days ago, we had all the snails. When you pick up a rock and hit it, they fall off it. And I just wanted to get that out there because I meant to mention that last night. And of course, because of whip, gives me no joy that we have to do stuff like this. And good night to everybody. We are going to rock and roll because I see your comments rolling by. That's a good thing about what we're doing here. Now, you can see the carnage at Fukushima. I'm going to be jumping around quite a bit. What else is new? We're talking about Fukushima. We're going to show a little tiny bit of whip, a whole bunch of other little subjects. It's a tight 1 hour show, and we rock and roll the entire way through. As you can see, the carnage. Now, you can imagine if you owned a structure in that carnage and the beating that carnage would have took, right, at Fukushima. And we'll give you a quick rundown on Fukushima in case you're not familiar. Massive earthquake. It had a tsunami tore through that place. The nuclear power plants, there was 14 reactors in Japan went in a heart attack mode. And in particular, Fukushima had 4 major detonations. 3 of them were hydrogens, and number 3 reactor was a nuclear detonation. Not a nuclear bomb detonation, but a nuclear detonation, according to studies and research on that particular explosion. But they were all extraordinarily violent. Now, Unit 3 was felt 25 miles away by an AP reporter. You can look that one up, you'll find out about that. And so you really got to understand the deterioration of this place and the carnage that originally hit it. This is one of the Fukushima 50s, and these pictures are all authentic. You can download them underneath my video. There's around 2,000 of them. They're packaged, 99 packages, zip files. And most of them were took by the Fukushima 50. Just in case you're not familiar with that, you know, your resources are right there from TEPCO's website. Now, this person here, I'm assuming it's a male, is just after the tsunami, and he's going in surveying the area. These are the Fukushima 50. There's many of these Fukushima 50s, and the homeless. I forgot to close that window. Oh, that'll teach me. This is Unit 4. The top is taken off it with cranes. You won't see anybody with... I'll have to shut this down in a second here and go close that window. Not shut it down, but turn the mic off while I go do that, maybe. Just in case. If I hear a big racket coming through. Anyway, the Unit 4 you're looking at. Now, you can imagine 3 years later. Can you? Can you wrap your mind around that? 3 years, 1160 days later. This is Unit 3. Can you wrap your mind around that one? So the deterioration because they got so much material in it. And let me give you another click of Unit 4 for 1 second. Now, this is an older picture of Unit 4, and this tells the story, don't it? TEPCO come out and said that there wasn't a fire, there was oil that burnt. And that's why you've seen smoke coming out of Unit 4. That's Unit 4. And that's Unit 4 coming up there. Now, you know, how is it possible that that wasn't a big fire? Anybody? Because it was. Then the fuel pools had the reactors assemblies in it, 3,450. And there's 80 rods in the assembly. So these are huge, massive reactors. And Chernobyl was 1/3 the size of any of these reactors. And we'll cover that a little bit later for everybody. And this was what David Suzuki mimicked from the scientific community in academic papers one time, and he paid the price.
That the fear is, if there's another earthquake of a 7 or above, that building will go, and then all hell breaks loose. And the probability of a 7 or above earthquake in the next 3 years is over 95%. I have seen a paper which says that if, in fact, the 4th plant goes under an earthquake and those rods are exposed, it's bye-bye Japan, and everybody on the west coast of North America should evacuate.
So that's quite a staggering conflab of, you know, the information about Unit 4. And so we're very worried about Unit 4. And on May the 20th, there was a big fire. I got to keep scrolling because I figured out this Wirecast a little bit better. Not perfect, but it's a lot easier to work with for me sometimes. But I got so much in there, I'm not going to find a video at this moment. Unless I import it. Okay, well, I import it. Here we go. Hang on. That's the good thing about it. Once you get all imported and all set up, then you can... That's the 14-minute one. That's not the one. I didn't want the 14-minute one. We'll drink it in anyway. So let's play that. Just so you know what happened to that building he was talking about. And you're going to see a glow and a fire, what is a big, huge, massive fire coming from the right in a few seconds. You can see the glow now starting to glow. And this is around 80, 90 feet high. We're going to move out of this really quickly, but I just want you to get a little taste of what happened on May the 20th. I'm going to light up that whole sky. And this is 8 times... I'm sorry, a little over half off, so it's 2 times quicker, 2.5 times quicker or something than it should be. So the fire's moving a lot faster because I have another one there where I had it almost to the right speed. They compressed the original file, and you can find the videos back there and go to the original video at TEPCO's website where they uploaded this live streaming on YouTube, compressed into 3 minutes from an hour. You get 25,000 videos on that site. And this one they uploaded, and it shows a massive fire going across this place a few days back, May the 20th, I think it was. And that video it's got 40, 50,000 views now. It's a 3-minute video. But I just want to get back on this subject about the deterioration of Fukushima and how that, you can see the basement. I think this was number 5 reactor building or number 4 reactor building. Yeah, number 4 reactor building, this one in particular. And hang on a second. And so this is number 4 too. Now, this is salt water that came in there. And so salt water is going to destroy everything. So if you drove your car in the salt water and you went to the car wash and washed it off, it still rushed like a dog, like you can't imagine. From the East Coast, I'm familiar. So that site, every part of it, the buildings, the basements, the 50 feet off the floor was destroyed. Full of kelp, crap like that, right? in radiation. And let me come back to that basement shot for you. That's millions of becquerels a cubic centimeter. This picture was taken by Fukushima 50. They ran through and they uploaded all these pictures. You can download them underneath my video from TEPCO's website. There's around 2,000, can't remember, 235 or something. There's a lot of pictures there. And they're in categories by the buildings. And you can go through and see this picture and all the other ones I'm showing you. And so this radiated water was sprayed on Unit 4, Unit 3. I better grab a picture of that for everybody. I got so much I don't know what. Here we go. It was sprayed in on that, and it was repeatedly sprayed into these buildings. The water from that basement that I was just showing you was sprayed in on the melted cores. And these basements keep filling up. And the radiated material, the fissionable products, is getting sprayed back on the reactors in the buildings. And so that's going to destroy the absolute integrity of the buildings. Not that they're not already destroyed. And it's, say, the vapor from the fuel pool. That's one of the fuel pools in number 4, allegedly. You can't trust anything these people tell you. You got to go make sure and double check and triple check, quadruple check. And this pool is full of salt water. And so that's releasing material that destroys I can't remember the name, but destroys the integrity of metal and cement like a machine, like an animal, like a machine, like something out of Hollywood, where it destroys the integrity of metal, destroys the integrity. And so planes that are irradiated from flying through the jet streams, at some point in the near future, are probably going to have accidents. And at some point in the future, they're going to take them out of service because they know. Hang on, folks, I'm going to slurp. I meant to play a video when I'm doing that, but I smurfed up. And they sprayed salt water for the first few months, non-stop on these buildings. All over that site, salt water. And just that alone, not the radiation in the equation, which is incredible, and we're going to go through a lot of that. But just spraying all that salt water perpetually, like a perpetual motion machine, and they just can't shut it off under any circumstances, or it's bye-bye Japan, and they got to evacuate North America. That's not a joke, by the way. That's why nuclear is such a friggin' nightmare. It's such a scary creature, a critter. And why the people that defend it, they know what they're doing. They know that this is indefensible. And so they craft it themselves to be evil. They understand how wicked and demented this material is. There's nothing on the planet that is acclimated for radiation. And spraying the salt water on it, you created these urethral peroxide, what we call buckyballs. And this was a study, and it shows, in a nutshell basically, how inside of it, the little red piece there, consider that an atom or a particle, a radioactive particle from this creature that is an alien on our planet. And the material that it's creating, let me see if I can find a picture for us. The E equals MC square in the sun is wrong. I know that's a shock. Dana, what are you talking about? Well, the sun don't make those same elements that E equals MC square. Or E equals MC square might be the right equation, but what they're doing, remember how much effort and energy and everything Oppenheimer had to do to make it work? Well, maybe he didn't get it right. Maybe he didn't get that E equals MC square that Einstein stole off somebody who brought into the patent office that he worked in for decades and hung out with all those like-minded thieves. Because that's what they were, right? They were stealing the patents right out of the office, and then they're remembered in history as being a big inventor. Please. If I worked at a patent office for decades, and when I got older, all of a sudden, I became a genius. Gee, you don't suppose, that it had something to do with the fact that I was in a patent office, and I knew these people died, and I just took the patent. I mean, look at Nikola Tesla. Einstein knew Nikola Tesla, for Christ's sakes. And without Nikola Tesla, we'd be in a freaking lot of trouble. So E equals mc squared. You don't make those isotopes, those elements that we make on our planet anywhere else in the solar system. E equals mc squared on our planet is strictly for our planet. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The elements from the sun are the building blocks of life. That's what the sun does. It creates elements. What we do is us the wicked, we destroy elements. That's the tsunami. That's probably not a really good one. That's not a good one, I guess, but here's a better way of looking at it. Same piece of chunk of land. Now it's covered, not really, but now it's covered, I want you to think that way. Now it's covered with radioactive material. I got no idea what to freaking do with it, except maybe dump it in the ocean if everybody would just leave them alone for a little while. And we can't, because a few days ago, TEPCO uploaded this video and never told us what the frig it was. May the 20th. And there's a massive fire that's around 1,800 feet long, at least. And the building to the right is supposed to be Unit 4. Let me show you something about that. Unit 4. They took the top off it with cranes and everything. And they put this thing, and they say, everybody goes out there repeating it in the comment sections verbatim, that it's a structure for the maintain the structure, right? It's not. It doesn't touch the building, right? If anybody looks it up, they'll find out that does not touch the building. That's meant to support the equipment. They're going to try to reach in and get some of the assemblies out, right? Each assembly's got around blah, blah, blah. And I want you to remember 1,000 workers. I like this one because 10,000 counts per minute there. There's actually, I got another headline there of 5,000 workers that were highly radiated. And another headline of 43% of everybody that visited the Fukushima hospital had ingested radiation and had huge counts. 10,000 counts a minute. 10,000 counts a minute. You're walking nuclear waste. You're pooping out nuclear waste like the seagulls are down there dropping dirty bombs all over the place. You're no different. Wherever you pee, you're peeing out radiation. And if you recycle water in that country, drinking, like the sewer water and everything else, well, everybody's getting irradiated till the end of time. And if you don't think little bits of, and that's a lot, like 10,000 counts per minute, that's not going to go anywhere. You got that till the end of time. And Dr. Raymond Gilmedy from Loveless in New Mexico, he murdered puppies, beagles, and dogs for over 3 decades at Loveless. You can look it up. He's got 80 peer-reviewed studies, and just ingesting tiny, tiny particles of plutonium, that's what they done to the puppies. 3 or 4 years later, the dogs were dead. They were autopsying them and counting leukemias and tumors. That guy there, he's like Dr. Freak on the planet. He's the nightmare of every beagle puppy on the planet, I tell you what. I kid you not. And TEPCO a few days ago had uploaded that video. And we all know how much I like videos. And I'm just mesmerized by the fire. And they're not fessing up, and there's a secrecy law in Japan. And so that's more radiation. That site is probably evacuated. The fuel pools are so Like if you touch these rods together, or you touch the bundles together, or you get this metal into the equation that's in that fuel pool, that's number 4. And if you do that, the whole place could go, see? And everybody knows that. The whole place, the entire friggin' place could go kapooey in a heartbeat. Let me remind you. Right? Because when you start a reaction in the pool, it releases all these noble gases and the hydrogen and everything. And then if a squirrel farts or a bee stops or a mosquito stops and has a smoke, then the whole thing goes kabooey. You know, if somebody says, "Hey, Johnny, is your radio working?" Boom, because it's steady. And so we're looking at a real friggin' nightmare. Just a hell of a nightmare. One hell of a nightmare. I like this picture here coming up here. You like that? She's got a $10 million freak room down there where she tortures kids to death, probably. I know her son Harry, in his helicopter, these are dirty bombs. This is what he shoots. And just to remind everybody, if you go look up a sentence in that, you'll find that headline at a government website. And they were firing 5.5 million rounds a month. 5.5 million rounds a month in Iraq, and half of them were these creatures from McAllister, and left over from Hanford and places like that. Actually, Hanford got 40 miles of unlined trenches left over from the production of nuclear waste. You know how maniacal and twisted that is. Just check it out.
I know this sounds incredible to people, but there are 40 miles of unlined trenches at Hanford. You stretch them end to end, into which our federal government, your government, was dumping radioactive waste from nuclear weapons production and its own reactors until the year 2004, when we put those pictures on air and in our campaign literature for Initiative 297. I know this sounds incredible to people, but there are 40 miles of unlined trenches at Hanford.
Sorry. Click, 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 click. Sometimes I don't do it quick enough. Let me keep going here. We got to get back on track of Unit 4. What have I got here for Unit 4? So the integrity of that, I mean, nobody's going to question that that is like frigged. Yeah? That's not a very good video, but that was one of the Fukushima 50s, and so radiation is hard on cameras, and we're lucky to have it. And so the integrity of these buildings are already just garbage anyway. But when you see pumping all that salt water in there, and the buckyballs, and the radiation, then we're in a whole lot of trouble. Now, the machine out there, the creatures on this planet, are out there telling you that, say, the banana guys, right? We've heard this. Let me run back down. Just play that clip too while we're at it. Because that's the whole thing, right? We want everybody to be able to argue a point. So banana got nothing to do with what we're talking about. Zero. Because if you eat a banana, you off-gas that banana's equals of potassium-40. Your body can't hold anymore. It's homeostasis.
Homeostasis is a basic idea in biology, and what it is an organism's ability to keep a constant internal balance no matter what's going on in the environment.
So no matter what's going on in the environment. Well, listen to Dr. John Neal.
It all depends upon the amount.
Dr. John Neal, a professor of chemistry at Oklahoma City University, is not very concerned either. And even healthy foods aren't 100% healthy.
Most people will get more radiation exposure from eating bananas than they ever will from this New Mexico repository site. As with everything, it all depends upon the amount.
Let me keep.
Dr. John Nail, a professor of chemistry at Oklahoma.
So he's saying you get radiation from a banana. And he's a professor at university in Oklahoma, where they make those depleted uranium bullets that Prince Harry fires into Afghanistan villages. Right, Dr. John Neal. Let me give you a picture of that one more time. That's nuclear waste. They're not tipped, they're not coated. They're 238, uranium-238, and they're contaminated with americium and neptunium, plutoniums. And half of the 5.5 million rounds they fired every month to get their hands on 11,000 in Taliban, where they also created 5 million orphans in Afghanistan, because they're firing 5.5 million rounds a month. Imagine you fired that in your city every month, month after month for 9 years. 5.5 million rounds a month. Explosives, bullets, to get 11,000 Taliban, 5 million orphans. You got, 280,000 soldiers have committed suicide or raped each other in the military. They're raping each other. That's 29,000 a year for a decade. That's the Pentagon's numbers. You got 22 veterans committing suicide every day. That's 80,000 suicides since September 11, 2001, which was a false flag. And 11,000 Taliban. 80,000 dead soldiers from suicide. 280,000 women and men raped in the military. And millions in occupied country, right? They're raping their own that much. 5 million orphans. You got 4 million in refugee camps. You got 3 million missing. You got 2 million widows in Iraq to get 11,000. Everybody's being groped on every plane and airport and train stations and proms, friggin' highways and everywhere else, but a TSA to get 11,000 Taliban. They got cameras, 4.5 million cameras in Britain to protect you from the same 11,000 Taliban. They got 30,000 drone strikes shooting children and weddings and funerals. But people don't know what the frig is going on. Never even heard of 911 one for the same 11,000 Taliban. You got 49 bases around Iran for the same 11,000 Taliban. And these are all dirty bullets. And they want to make more. 5.5 million rounds a month. Half of those are dirty bombs. That's all dirty bombs. That's what they're firing, basically. But half, anyway, are dirty bombs from McAllister Bomb Manufacturing Facility in Oklahoma. That's the same place where shit hit here.
University is not very concerned either. And even healthy foods aren't 100% healthy.
Most people will get more radiation exposure from eating bananas than they ever will from this New Mexico repository site. As with it.
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? From that New Mexico repository. Where's the toe? There it is. See that truck fire? They couldn't get back down there for 9 days. And then they had a radiation release and didn't have to go back down. Well, I can't look at it without laughing. For 9 days.
Underground operations had already been suspended a week and a half ago after a truck caught fire in the underground facility where radioactive waste is housed.
Right, so they weren't down there for 9 days, and then they had a radiation release because of a truck fire. Because a truck fire is so freaking scary, so dangerous. Does that make any sense to anybody? Can anybody wrap their mind around that one? And this was a banana that they showed about the release at WIP. I done a video about it last night, actually. Had someone make up a count and come over and harass me. That was pretty funny. What'd I do with that? Probably got that there. Hang on. Dana needs cook. I looked it up. I can't figure out what it is. I don't know what the frig it means. That's because I was beat up in James Concha. A monster. A true monster. and he runs a school to teach people to be monsters just like him. It's fascinating. Now, back to Unit 4. Unit 4, for instance, or any of the reactors. Let me run all the way up here. Hang on. So I can get you up, keyed up what we're talking about. Actually, let's do it by the numbers real quick. Coming up, Unit 1. There's Unit 1. She's a pretty one, eh? Look at that. She had a detonation and melted down core. Gone. 100%. And we knew about that in the first couple of days, right? And I showed you the videos. The videos up on my site of everybody talking about it. Oh, I got to go one. Hang on, I got to roll back down. So I'll come back to this hopefully in a second. You know me. Where the hell did I put that? You can't hide from me. Come here. Oh, you must be right about. Darn it. Gotcha. All right. So, WHIP. Let me run back to that one for a second. That's where this one starts. So at a WHIP town meeting, they have one a week or something, in New Mexico, Carlsbad, right?
Are you still getting such waste that's not vented? And that could be a problem.
Okay, so that's a great question. So let me answer it more generally. There are no containers at WHIP that are unvented. There is a requirement that all containers that come to WHIP have to be vented. And that's not just a requirement for us to receive, it's also a requirement for the licenses that control the TruPacs that all this waste is shipped in. The containers have to be vented. We have to do headspace gas analysis on all the containers to verify any generation rates and that they have to be below certain levels. And so the answer to your question is no, we don't have any containers.
So the answer to your question is there's a banana coming out of there all the time. It's like, let me see, we got something for that equation, and I'll expand on that in a second. There we go, because I really like this picture. So they got a massive release coming out of there all the time from all these drums. They're always leaking. But it's what they call an acceptable level. And they got no choice but to leak, because if you don't leak, everything goes boom. Boom, boom, boom. Big time. And so they have to, because it's building up the noble gases. Otherwise, why would they have them all venting all the time, right? See what's going on here? And the left shoe don't really know what the right shoe is doing half the time. They're just out there trying to protect the industry. And so you can catch these guys tripping each other up if you check it out. And so the banana can't hurt you. It's homeostasis. And if you eat a banana, you automatically off-gas the exact same amount of potassium-40. And potassium-40's got nothing to do with chain reaction. Potassium-40 is nowhere to be found in E equals mc squared, but it's in, you'll find it coming out of the sun. You'll find every element in our periodic table in our solar system coming out of the sun. But you won't find any of the elements in our solar system or periodic tables coming out of a chain reaction nuclear, what they call nuclear. It's got nothing to do with the actual sun. Sun makes elements, chain reactors destroy them. And not only that, these creatures boil 1 million gallons a minute. So they boil all the creatures in the ocean to make energy. That's the sickest, dementest thing imaginable. Because a glass of water could have 100 million phytoplankton of salt water. And they boil 1 million gallons. So 8 million, 36 million glasses times 100 million a minute. That's mad. Times 440 nuclear plants on this planet that are boil water plants. That's twisted. That's really twisted. And so even if you never had an accident, you could kill all the creatures in the oceans in your river. And they say, oh, no, that stuff is not getting in the river. But everything hemorrhages. All the fuel pools, even the ones that are not destroyed, they boil off about 120,000 liters a day of radioactive material in your community. They are death the minute you started them up. At the very end of it, everybody ends up in this environment, and the nuclear chain reaction is still going strong. So they got to stop doing that. You can't leave the chain reaction going because it might not shut off ever. That's the problem. And it's not a chain reaction. It's a control reaction. If they actually went in chain reaction, it would melt straight down through the containments because they're jack. They're nothing. And everybody knows that if you look into it. Hang on one second here. We're all over the place. And so it's not bananas. Let me bring up a picture for you. The bananas, the potatoes, the drinks, that's potassium 40. And they bring that into the equation all the time and say, oh, see, that's radioactive too. There's 260 of these stupid background radiations on the planet that they identified, and there's 3,100 altogether. The rest of them are man-made. So 2,799 are man-made or whatever. And they don't exist anywhere else in our solar system, let alone of coming from the sun. It's the complete opposite of what we do. And the radiation is destroying our ocean at the same time because it won't leave us alone. It won't stop hemorrhaging out of there. And better get started on what I wanted to say here. They're going to equate it also with getting an x-ray. And you do that all the time. And they equate it with walking in the sunshine. And they're going to equate it with bananas. And they're going to equate it with drinking water. And these are all normal radiation except for the x-ray. But if you ingest a hot particle, you get an x-ray for the rest of your life, non-stop. So it's like an x-ray, but it's an x-ray that never stops. And I say that's not healthy for you, right? That you shouldn't get x-rays constantly for the rest of your life. Let me keep going here. We got another couple of clips here we want to stick back out to. They dumped 450 billion gallons. 450 billion gallons into the soil of radioactive material. And this one should have chain reaction. This is ionized. These are not elements that we find anywhere else in our solar system. They dumped it directly into our soil. And it splits the atom, and produces isotopes, particles, and radioactive particles, and mostly atoms. But like a nuclear fission, a meltdown core, that's producing much more particles on top of everything else. Right? Because it ionizes it. And ionize will give you cancer. And all breast cancer has been traced directly to ionized radiation because all the reactors are releasing material into the environment all the time. And it's got a longer life than me and you. A longer half-life than all of us put together for some of it. So here's a short video. Make sure I got everything. Freaking microphone. Here we go.
What they're not telling the public is that they also deliberately dumped out of the high-level nuclear waste tanks in the 1950s and 1960s billions of gallons of liquids into the soil. And it is very, very toxic. It is radioactive. It includes uranium, that with half-lives of hundreds of thousands of years, and plutonium, and technetium-90, and strontium-90, and technetium-99, and all sorts of chemicals as well. And it's a witch's brew of deadly wastes, and it's all moving towards our lifeblood, the Columbia River. But they're not telling them.
Like, you got to realize what they got done to us and how they done it to us. That's why I do what I do all the time. And right now, what's going on is I'm just literally sick to my stomach about the ocean. Because these creatures have been at this for a long time. And Fukushima in particular is really, really something. And I'll just walk you through. If I can get on track here. Because that's the best way to look at that is it's nonstop hemorrhaging into this ocean. And so the ocean can't sustain nothing can sustain that, right? Nothing. Ken Buesler, just hang on a second.
And these little arrows are the location and strength of the current called the Kuroshio. We like to call it the Gulf Stream of the Pacific because we're more familiar often with the Gulf Stream. Very fast moving current, moves like a little snake offshore. And when you release a contaminant that's soluble, it's going to move with those currents as fast as 1,500 kilometers here in 1 month. This is a prediction from a
1,500 kilometers in 1 month. Well, a jet stream's at 100 miles an hour. It's 2,400 miles in 24 hours. This is a model of a release from there. That also, a lot of that fell into the ocean. But it made it all the way across and fell and blanketed North America. Blanketed. And this is a prediction on just a small release from Fukushima's 4 melted reactors. And hang on, I'll bring up a picture of that. Just really quick. So Unit 1 up in the top left, Unit 2 in the top right, Unit 3 in the bottom left, and Unit 4 in the bottom right. At least in my window anyway. And they're not in that model. Just Unit 2, the one with the roof intact. This is what most of the models were made up on. But what's going on is all those melted reactors. I'll give you another picture. You can see now it's invading North America. And it just keeps hemorrhaging out of there for a year like that. But it didn't stop, but it was hardcore. And see, that's only a tiny release compared to what actually was truly happened. Right? Because you had the detonations, the rods are all over that site. You got the melted cores, and then the buildings are exposed and hemorrhaging into the environment. The rods are split and releasing the neutrons and the X-rays, ionized gammas, betas, and alphas that are extraordinarily powerful. And like Dr. Raymond Gilmedi had showed us by murdering for decades, a few decades, puppies. I'll bring up a picture. Mr. Sunglasses, man. That's, we know how deadly radiation truly is. It's really friggin' bad. And we also know,
but I charge my iPhone every single night. I charge my iPad every single night. I touch that cord, I move that cord, I don't feel a tingle, I don't feel a shock. And if I licked that cord, it wouldn't hurt me. And I'm not trying to be funny, I'm trying to equate radiation exposure to something that you can understand. They're down in the levels of licking your iPhone charger. But I charge my...
Yeah, licking your iPhone charger, that stuff will make you sick. That'll make you just as sick as the April 16th forecast showed radioactive clouds stretching right across North America, like I was showing you earlier with that other model. Here's another model. And so that goes right across North America in a couple of days to the jet stream. It's pumping out there into the ocean. Let me give you a better concept of that. And then it's pumping out into the ocean at the same time. Now the ocean, that's really something. So think about what you're seeing there St. Paddy's Day, every minute going into the ocean. It doesn't stop going into the ocean from the 4 melted reactors. And yet they can't find anything in the kelp. The EPA has increased cesium-137, a man-made radioactive isotope, to 7,400 becquerels a cubic meter of water. And as you drink it, you accumulate more and more and more in your body. But if it was just potassium 40, and you allowed 7,500 becquerels of potassium 40 in a glass, you drink it, you off-gas 7,500 becquerels of potassium 40. But if there's a single becquerel of 137, you keep it forever. And it gives you an extra rate till the end of time. So it's like St. Paddy's Day, where it's hemorrhaging not only into the environment, but also into our ocean. So 1,440 minutes in a day, it's like a 1,000-pound truck, a dye that doesn't dilute and doesn't loses and is radioactive, doesn't lose its ability for 1,000 years or a billion years. For uraniums, 234, 235, 238, and all the other daughters, and plutonium, and all their other daughters and sisters, and aunts and uncles and brothers and cunts.
I'd like to welcome our own students from nuclear science and engineering and other members of the community here at MIT, and also visitors, I think, from elsewhere.
And shortly after 3:30, there was a hydrogen explosion in the building of reactor 1.
Sorry. And so I'll let that finish playing. But this is MIT talking about on the 16th of March, 4 days later. I'm going to let it play because I hit it. And they're telling everybody in their crew anyway, because the media didn't listen to it. Nobody else did. The apologists didn't listen to it. But he's telling them what happened, what I'm telling you tonight. That was known 4 days later.
Of that explosion. Not long after, the evacuation zone was extended to 20 kilometers radius. On Monday at 11 a.m., so this is now on the third day, there was a hydrogen explosion of building of reactor 3. In the meantime, reactor 2 fuel rods, what is reported to have been fully uncovered, and they quite soon began to inject seawater, borated seawater. At 6:14 a.m. on Tuesday, that's today, of course, but since they're 13 hours ahead of us, that was quite a while ago now, there was a third explosion. This was in reactor 2. This was inside, as far as we can tell, inside or near the containment. And another worry that arose was on that same day was that the reactor 4 building, reactor 4 is adjacent to reactor 3, was observed to be aflame. And this was sort of at the same time that radiation levels were increasing further. There was a lot of suspicion that this fire was in the spent fuel pool. However, since that time, TEPCO has said that there was an oil leak in a water pump and that was what was the cause of the fire.
So that was MIT. And what you're looking at is Chernobyl. It was 1/3 the size of any of the reactors at Fukushima, at any of them. Let me bring up a picture for that. And Chernobyl was 1/3 the size of any of those reactors. Those reactors were 100% meltdowns, and Chernobyl was a 30% meltdown. Chernobyl, he brought in 600,000 scripted soldiers and 400,000 laymen, like miners. And they dug underneath that reactor. They went up on the roofs and cleaned them off of the graphite that blew out through the detonations. And the helicopter, all of those pilots died. Every one of them. They all died. 600 from cancer, from flying over Fukushima and dropping material down there. So they dropped boric acid and sand and lead, 600 helicopter pilots. And then they came in and built a sarcophagus over it. And the people on the roof, they would go there 15 or 20 seconds, originally for the first couple of weeks, and throw a chunk off and run away and go home, never go back again. So 600,000 people, they spread the dose out that way. Fukushima, they're bringing in the homeless, the destitute, the marginalized, and they're victimizing them, stealing from them, and throwing them away like trash. Right? And because it's coming out of there at a phenomenal rate, we don't look. We look at tunas. We don't look at all the creatures on our coastline. And it's not like we don't have the ability to do it. It's just that all of a sudden it's off limits. All we talk about is tuna. And our shorelines are much more, our coastlines have much more to tell us than a friggin' tuna. We're worried about everything else. We're not worried only about a tuna. I mean, if that's hemorrhage, and it is, every minute, non-stop, around 400 to 800 tons a day of radioactive material running over the hot coriums, running over the blown up fuel rods, running over chunks, and becoming ionized and radiated and carrying that material, moving it, releasing it, interacting with it. It's radioactive beyond imagination. And so that's going to, at some point, destroy the friggin' ocean, because it won't stop hemorrhaging out of there. We can't stop it. Nobody can stop it from hemorrhaging into our ocean. And let me get these headlines. I got a couple of for you. 40 million becquerels of iodine-131 in a single bed of kelp off Southern California. Amount is even likely larger. Well, that one in particular, I got to scroll down and find it here. WB. That one in particular, because I changed everything. Just 1 second. Such is life. It's going to take another couple of weeks because I'm importing everything into this. And I got to find it. Okay, here it is. 45,000 45-gallon barrels were dropped off the California coastline. And that's why you're seeing all the seals and sea lions and those massive numbers showing up, right? It's because they dropped 45,000 45-gallon barrels right off that friggin' coastline. And so what would you expect to happen? And so a lot of people are trying to associate it with Fukushima, and it could be, don't get me wrong, right? You've seen the fallout. Here, let me bring that up for you again. Radioactive fallout. So disposition to fallout, nuclear fallout, is not maybe or there was a little bit. These models are only based up on a little bit, but the forecast and the melted reactors you've seen and the total releases and the constant releases and the continuous releases and the way the ocean picks it up in clouds on top of that and is hemorrhaging into the ocean like St. Paddy's Day, 1,440 minutes a day, every day, perpetual motion machine that will never end because we won't try, because we bring in the homeless. We victimize them and throw them away like they're trash. And then they make up silly stories where they say this is a structure to support Unit 4 where all that fuel pools allegedly is sitting. So all that weight is unstable. The integrity of the building is unstable. But that support doesn't touch the building. It's to support the equipment, the fuel equipment, when they put it in that building. They haven't got it in, right? They tore off the top of that with cranes and everything else. But that you can't get in there for thousands of years probably. It's huge, massive radiation. Okay, once again, we're almost finished. We'll shut her down. I didn't walk everybody through it. Let's run through one more time. Unit 4. A couple of months ago and forever after till now, they've been showing us it looks like that, saying it looks like that on the inside. And that's impossible, right? That is a beautiful building inside and it looks like that in reality. You can download pictures below. That's just Unit 4 right alongside of it. No, yeah, that's Unit 4, that's Unit 4. And they say, this is Unit 4. I got more pictures there, I'm sure, Unit 4. Just a bit worried about all the scrolling, whether you're getting any stuttering on your end. And I got to import a hell of a lot more pictures yet. Okay, once again, we'll end it on this. That's Unit 1, and it's destroyed. And so the integrity, because of radiation, is dramatic, how it deteriorates. It's like rust putting a car in the ocean, leaving it there. And they poured salt water in these buildings, right? That was Unit 3, I messed up. That's Unit 2, that's also melted. And Unit 4, so 4 melted reactors, heat signature. They all had detonations. Their fuel pools are all in desperate mode. They're emitting. The ocean is filling up with radiation like a perpetual motion machine. And these numbers are probably be found all around the coastline, because you got to think about rain with 20 million particles of radioactive iodine 131. There was 10 times as much iodine 132 there. They didn't look for it. There was 30 times as much iodine 133. There had to be uraniums and all their daughters, plutoniums and all their daughters. And that all washes back down to the coastline, all along that coastline. And that was like the whole coastline. There was hot particles right from Seattle all the way down to New Mexico. And the ocean is already full of it, because we keep sending homeless in there to try to fix something that only the sharpest, best minds on the planet should even consider. And recently, we had a massive fire and release down there. We don't even know if there's people on that site. You'll see the fire starting to move across the screen from right to left, at least on my screen. And, you know, if that's radioactive material or not, everybody bails. Because that's what you would do, okay? If you're on that site, you'll be running like you can't imagine. And if we lose the site, we lose the friggin' planet. Because radiation doesn't make any friends with anybody. The system is maniacal. Maniacal, and always has been. I mean, they grandfathered in every chemical on this planet in 1981 when the EPA was created. So you can't turn it in.
And have never toxicity there and health, and that law onto the
my computer didn't like that at all. I guess I've been clicking too much. Click, 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 and scrolling. So it's heating up. I won't do that anymore. We'll shut her down. We'll call her a night. I can't play another video. I'll solve that problem next time. And I got a whole bunch of nuclear news there I'm going to have to get to very soon. And these buckyballs from spraying the salt water on those reactors is a perpetual motion machine. All the buildings down there are full of radioactive material. All the buildings are hemorrhaging into the ocean until the end of time. And because we won't try to stop it, we send in the homeless. The people can't read and write. Like Chernobyl, 600,000 soldiers, 15, 20 seconds. And when it was safe, they stayed longer in other places. And they got the job kind of done way better than anything possible. And they done it. 1 million people. Fukushima, 300,000 of the homeless. They're running out of the homeless. And they're just crazy. So we'll catch everybody tomorrow night. Looks like my stream is all messed up. I'm getting messages here. And so I'll just let it go. I'll come in and read the comments after. Good night, Kurtzer, James, Beck, Ronald McKnight. We got Kitty, John, Amthurst, War Prophet, Sylvia, Toxic, James Beck, Daisy May, Cockmiser. The 3 coriums, they're tunneling underground. Yeah, you better believe it. Yeah. Rocks will melt at 2,000 degrees. These things are 5, 6, 7, 8,000 degrees. Don B, mass sterilization, NHD, Atom. Everybody, we'll catch you folks again tomorrow night. We're back on track, hopefully. Looks like everything's night after night is working. Might as well keep going. And we're going to have to hit with other topics in the nuclear industry because I got a big folder of it. Davey, from now on to Kurtzer K, Nuts for Art, Alex Smith, Mickey, Ice 9, Phoenix, Cats Alive, Laurie, Checks and Balances, Mungo. Yeah, good night, 420. Everybody, just some Guy 5. Kerry, Monterey's, Tracy, Mervyn. I seen Grandma Goldie was there earlier. We say goodnight to Stacy. I seen a lot of people there. Missing Sky, everybody. We'll catch you folks. When the fire at Unit 4 is shown, 3 is to the left. That is from the land side. Okay, thank you, Mr. I Can See. Good night, everybody. And it's good to see I got most of the kinks out of this system, so I don't have to fight with it and then be worn out and can't do it the next day because you're just worn out. And so I'm getting rest finally now, and I'll get back on track in the next few days. But I'm going to keep doing this because we got no choice. If we don't, we're done because nobody else is, right? So we got to have a debate, whether they like it or not. Take care, folks. Take care.